Hi everyone, it's me again. The chapter from My Hero Academia is out, and honestly, finally we get some answers for the second and third users of One for All, and I couldn't be more excited to review this chapter. So the chapter begins on a rainy night. We see a woman with a mutant quirk getting attacked by a group of civilians. They think that she's a monster and pretending to be a civilian. Unfortunately, the woman, she's in tears. She's trying to explain, but and sadly they still keep attacking her. They don't trust her until Deku he has to step in. He tells the civilians, look, just calm down, and they finally let the woman explain. The woman explains that once the evacuation started, she didn't went for it. She thought that if she just stayed at home and just waited out, but unfortunately it just got worse and worse throughout the day until the point that she knew that she had to evacuate to the schools. Then we see on the next panels Deku is just trying to reassure the distressed woman. He even uses float to get her umbrella and give it to her because she's pretty tall. The woman then asks Deku, do you think things will go back to the way they were? And Deku says that, yeah, they will. I like that they added this moment when they asked Deku, do you think things will go back to normal? And then for him to say, yes, they will. But especially during these times, which are just so hopeless, it was nice that they're adding these little details. You just see the development that Deku has gone throughout during the war arc. Then we see All Might arriving at the scene. Deku asks him to please take the woman to the evacuation site because he says that he cannot stay there for too long. But before Deku leaves, All Might gives him like a bento box with poor Katsu. And he tells him, dude, you've been working like non-stop, at least please eat the meal before it gets cold. And we just see like Deku smiling with on his mask. It was pretty cute. Then we get to see the next panel with Deku just is on top of a building and he's staring at the whole city, and he has a conversation with the fifth user. I think his name is Banjo, the one that uses black whip. He comments that it's like time went backwards. Yeah, it went back to the way it was when All for One ruled the entire world. Then we see Deku commenting that they still haven't found Shigaraki, All for One, Darby, the League of Villains, and the Nomus. There are no clues of their whereabouts. He even makes comments that like even if Aizawa and Endeavor team up against Shigaraki, he doubts they could even do anything to him. You could just see the threat Shigaraki has become. And remember, during the war arc, his transformation in that incubator wasn't even complete. And even during the fight, they said that Shigaraki, once he recovers and assimilates the quirk, who knows how strong he'll become. So I'm seeing that Deku is still thinking about all these things in his mind, especially now that he's going vigilante. He even thinks that if One for All can't put a stop to all this madness, nothing will improve. And then we see Deku saying, please guys, work with me. Then we go back to a flashback before Deku woke up from his dream where he was meeting all the Predecessors of One for All, and we finally get to see more info about the second and third user. As you know, on previous chapters, when Deku is talking to all the Predecessors of One for All, we remember that the first is asking for the cooperation of all users. And of course we see that the second and third users have turned their backs. They don't even reply to that response. And I always wonder What is the reason why they still haven't accepted Deku? And we finally get to see it here, and it's understandable why they can't accept them. So we get to see a little bit of flashbacks with the 5th user, like being all like funky with Deku, and tells him that that he needs to get used to the other quirks, especially Ant's and his. And finally we get to see the 3rd user talk. He explains that the first, second, and third user came from a very rough era in history when All For One was at his prime and he was ruling everything. And in order to hold All For One, it took them working together to push him back. We finally get to see the 2nd user talk, and gives us the true identity of the 1st user. He reveals his name as Joichi. And as you know, during the arc where we learn a little bit of Shigaraki's history, we learn that the last name of All For One is Shigaraki. So his full name is Joichi Shigaraki. That's kind of interesting. I was like, wow. However, we still don't know the name of Joichi's older brother. So the 2nd user, after he reveals his name, he says that they had to sacrifice so many lives, far too many to count. The 3rd user, he now begins explaining why they still haven't accepted Deku. He says at the end of the battle, it's either victory or defeat. He says they don't believe in Deku's idea of saving his arch nemesis. They think it's delusional. It's crazy. In a way, I understood why. Now I finally see why. I mean, I understand Deku. He wants to save everyone, even if the person is evil and everything. But then I think of Gran Torino, what he told him before he left the hospital, that sometimes a form of salvation is death. And I wonder how these words will affect Deku. I know we all know that Deku just wants to save people, but then we see the 2nd and 3rd user's point of view. The time that they came from was a very rough era where there was literally no hope. I mean, All For One was at his prime, taking over everything, and the lives they had to sacrifice just to hold them back. It must have been very traumatizing for them. Then we get to see that the 1st user agrees with his point. He then recalls his story, how he was rescued. He was actually rescued by the 2nd and 3rd user. And this is just so ironic. The 2nd and 3rd users, they were like the very first ones to fight against All For One. And for them to free the brother of their arch nemesis, it's mind-blowing, honestly. I didn't expect this twist. And this is just important, honestly. If those 2 guys wouldn't have rescued the 1st user, One For All would have never existed. The journey would have never even started. Everything would be to how it is right now. Also, the 1st user also guesses that the 2nd and 3rd user start appearing in the vestiges was because they don't really have any other choice but to trust everything to Deku. So when they start appearing, I guess it's like almost like a symbol. They're kind of getting to trust them, but not completely. So I love that they're adding this details, this important crucial information about them. Then we get to see the 2nd user asking the 1st user a very important question. Do you think Deku will be able to save the day? The 1st user responds, it's a very interesting one, and I like it. He says that One For All will never back down to All For One. And once again, he recalls that moment that he was rescued, and because he reached his hand out to him, the journey of One For All began. I love this story between the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd users. You realize how honestly kind of like how close they became. We still don't know many details, but it's honestly an important story. We get to see the point of view of the second and third users, because like I said, they came from a different time, and honestly it's rough. And also the other users, they also came in different times. We know that the fourth user, the time was still there. It's still pretty dangerous, so he even had to hide in the mountains to cultivate the power because he knew he wasn't even strong enough. Which makes me wonder how different society was for each of the wielders. I mean, we know the first, second, and third user, it was rough. It was the beginning of when everything went to shit. The fourth user literally hid in the mountains to cultivate the power and hide. We still don't really know too much information about the other ones until we know that he was kind of able to fix society to a point that there was a blissful peace for many years. Then we get to see the next panel. We see all the Predecessors all gather around Deku. We get to see the second and third user. They're far more visible this time. And we get to see that the second user finally talks to Deku. He says, "Listen carefully, kiddo. We're going full speed ahead now." Deku responds, "Yes," while he's eating the food in his bento box. Honestly, I really enjoyed this chapter. We finally got a little more information about the second and third user. But I still have more questions. I mean, what are their quirks? I hope they're gonna reveal that in the next chapter or pretty soon. I mean, I also wonder how's the UA Academy doing? How are the other heroes and heroes in training doing? Honestly, I wish we could see Bakugo, Todoroki, Uraraka once again. I hope we get to see them soon, because I have so many questions after the war ended. Deku was forced to leave. I wonder how things are going. I mean, we know that right now Japan is in a state of chaos. Things they look hopeless, dark. I wonder what's gonna happen. Honestly, I have so many questions, but hopefully we get more answers on the following chapter. Overall, the chapter was enjoyable. I like it. More answers. And anyway, I hope to see you in the next chapter.